The Joe Rogan Experience.
A lot of us get there, right? A lot of people that we know came from a place where when they were really young, they were like, what the fuck is going on with the world?
Yep.
How old do you think you were when you had your first, oh, I think my parents might be fucking crazy thought? Where you're like, these people are in charge of telling me what to do. This is nonsense. You're talking crazy talk here.
It happened for me the first time that I took LSD. And maybe before that, but when I took LSD, when I took LSD for the first time, I can remember whenever you take LSD, especially, when I took LSD, what worries do I have? I'm in fucking high school. There's nothing in it. There's no demons to come swimming out of my brain and taunt me with like all the myriad of things you get when you're older. There's just fucking nothing.
You were just open.
I might be upset because like a cheerleader that came over to my house, I couldn't figure out how to kiss her. Maybe that's like the biggest problem I'm having at the time. So, but at that time, when I did it for the first time and had that initial experience, and you go back to your parents who've never taken it, and if you mentioned to them that you'd even taken it, they might want to put you in a drug rehab, or they think you're insane, or they think you're getting down the wrong track. You're forced into this place of like, fuck, man, you guys don't even know. You don't even understand this new way of experiencing life, So, and I think there's a lot of people who spend their whole lives never knowing that. You don't have to take psychedelics to get to that place. There's other ways to get to that place. But yeah, it's a very strange thing. And those people who never get to that place, they're the ones who a lot of them are in control right now.
So your life took an inexorable change when you did acid. That was like the point where you look back and you said, this is the point where I went off into this direction.
Well, no, I'd say that taking acid started with a series of like books. It started with contact with like, the whole weirdness. My whole weirdness started with, or as I recall, it started with me coming upon this book that my mom had called Raja Yoga by Yogi Ramacharaka, who, by the way, was never a yogi. He was just some English mystic who wrote this book and lied about being a yogi. But
that's awesome.
It's a fascinating story. But the book, that was the first time I'd ever read the idea that you're an observer observing yourself, that you aren't necessarily the you that you think, the you that can be observed is not you. You're the observer state, the mindfulness, the watcher. That's the first time I'd come upon the idea of that's called the Atman, the thing that observes yourself. When someone will say, I'm really mad right now. The moment you say, I'm mad, you're creating a distinction, between the thing that's observing that you're mad and the thing that's mad. So that observer, that watcher, that's the thing that mindfulness is what, throughout my whole life, I try to, go into that place of observing myself rather than being the thing. And it's a game that you can play, and it really is quite helpful with a variety of problems, especially if you get really angry. If you get really angry and you can stop yourself and just watch. And there's tools you can use. In that book, I remember it said, as you walk around, start thinking he is walking. That was like one of the tools. Like it's in a book and you're a character in a book. So when you're going around, you're like, right now he's doing a podcast. Right now he's talking. And so these are activities designed to create this like the watcher, the state of presence of watching. So that started it. That led me to like, and then I found out about, I think I read the electric Kool-Aid acid test. About fucking Ken Kesey and the Merry Pranksters blasting themselves on acid and going to the World's Fair in a bus. And then I read that shit. No, I remember. Wait, I'll tell you. Then I'll stop this weird rant. I remember now. Fucking film strip. That's what it started in my head. I think I was in like the 4th grade and they showed us a drug film strip. Remember film strips?
Yes, I do.
And it fucking popped up this guy, like it popped, there's a guy, I still remember, it's a guy in a fucking empty apartment. And he's curled against the wall in the fetal position. And it's at LSD. And it looks terrible. And then the narrator says, LSD can make you experience hallucinations. You can see dragons. And I remember him saying you could see dragons. I'm like, I want to see a fucking dragon. How do you see a dragon? That sounds awesome. Fuck the empty apartment in the fetal position. I'll figure it out.
I'll sit on chairs.
That guy's a pussy.
Yeah.
Like, what are you crying? You saw a dragon, you little
saw a
bitch.
dragon.
You took acid. What'd you expect?
Yeah. And that put it in my head. It's like, well, I think that's a interesting thing to explore. But yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. So you think that you were like two Duncans, like Duncan 1 and Duncan 2? Like Duncan 1 is like regular Duncan, growing up, innocent boy.
Sure.
Boom, psychedelics, and then Duncan 2, 2.0.
Yeah. There's definitely a Duncan 2 that happened, I'd say. And then that Duncan 2 changed too, man, because you as you get older, the best thing that can happen to you is you get knocked off track. That's the best thing that can happen to you in general, because generally the track you're on has been set for you by people who never got off their track. You end up the child of someone who decided to have you in their 20s, 21, 22. They're not going to know a lot of stuff. They're not going to understand the universe that much unless they came from a really good family of artists or intelligent people. Chances are they're scared, hungry, desperate, angry. They don't want to be in the relationship anymore. They don't want to be monogamous anymore. The idea of non-monogamy to them might just seem insane. Who the fuck knows? But you're born into that planet. That's the atmosphere you're born into. That's what you're breathing when you're first born. And that can set you on a weird path. And that's a very sad path that you can get on. And so hopefully, if you're lucky, you'll come across somebody who knocks you off that fucking path. I remember the guy who hooked me up with acid. I remember sitting in the theater of my school because I was a drama nerd, and I was sitting in the theater of my school next to this guy.
I like the way you said that too.
Next to this guy, Brad, and I remember sitting and we were talking, and he mentioned tripping on LSD, and I'm like, what? It's like, oh yeah, I took acid over the weekend. I'm like, what? You can get acid?
The movie, the life of Duncan. Somebody must animate this. Somebody, please. I know you're folks out there that animate shit. You got to animate this.
That moment took me to, and this is really weird.
Tell me what the first trip was like.
I'd love to. The first trip was it was white blotter paper. It was just white blotter. Somehow, if you don't know this, LSD gets put on sheets which look like blotter paper, and sometimes they have designs, sometimes they don't. But the name is always usually a reference to the design on the sheet. So, purple Jesus, white blotter, lips. There's a million different names for the different types of acid. But so this is just white. Who knows what it was? But it was really good, and I can remember I took it. And you have to, it takes 30 to 45 minutes, sometimes longer for it to kick in. I still remember I was sitting in my friend's trailer in a trailer park in North Carolina, sitting in an empty bathtub, like an empty jacuzzi tub that was in this trailer. And I'm sitting there and they're watching Star Wars. And I'm sitting in this bathtub. And all of a sudden, the greatest feeling just started going through my legs and up into my body, and it was a fucking sword fight. It was a lightsaber fight. Pew, 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 and I'm listening to that, but all of a sudden now the sound's echoey, like someone's turned an echo up on it. So it's like, pew, boom, pew, pew, boom, pew, boom, pew. It's kind of bouncing around. It's beautiful, and I feel so fucking good. Started laughing. It seemed so funny. Then I went outside and lay in the grass. I'm staring at the sky. Everything's beautiful. Trails. You put your hand in front of your face, and it's just this rainbow of hands drifting in front of your face. Everything's breathing. Then my friends come running out because they knew this was the first time I was tripping, and they all start jumping over me. They're like jumping over me as I'm laying there, and they're laughing, and we're all fucking laughing, and it's just perfect. Then I remember
somebody pulled their cock out.
And that's when we all started fucking. We fucked and fucked. And then a dog came by and we grabbed the dog and started fucking the dog.
Whoa,
But no, it was beautiful.
contrary to
It
the
was-
spirit of acid.
It was very yeah. There was no fucking happening. There was a lot of like laughing. I remember going into my friend's shitty high school car and like sitting and like pulling the seat back and looking at the ceiling.
Wow.
And I'm looking at the ceiling and it's fucking hieroglyphics or some kind of like ancient writing. You know, I don't even think I knew what Sanskrit was at the time, but I'd probably be like, oh, I'm seeing Sanskrit, some kind of runes or glyphs all over my friend's car that's just kind of breathing and warping, and it's just beautiful. So yeah, that was the first time, and once you've had that experience, how do you go back to a normal kind of world?
The first time I ever did acid, I've told you this before. I met Kurt Cobain. How crazy was that?
Whoa.
Wow.
Tell that story again.
I think I died this night. By the way, I have this
You
new
came
theory
back?
this is what made me think of a theory that like every time you die, you don't know that you died, but then you left this world, and everyone else in this other parallel world, you know, they think you died. Like, you know, they went to
Right.
the funeral. And this is where I thought this from was the first time I did acid. Me and my girlfriend at the time, that was Marissa. We went to go see.
Holla, Melissa.
Yeah, we went to go see Nirvana, and she had acid, and I've never done acid before. She goes, "Let's do acid and see Nirvana." So we took acid, and the opening band was on, which is some Asian band that just screamed the whole time, and it was like, you know, it's kind of like, I don't know, annoying. So I was sitting next to the side of the stage, and Kurt Cobain comes around the corner and just comes out, and like it was really dark, so no one could see it, and he's just standing right next to me. I look over, I'm like, oh my fucking god, it's Kurt Cobain. And I was like, "Hey, what's up?" And he goes, "Hey, what's up? You want a Cheeto?" And he like held out his bag, and I'm like, "Yeah." And so I held on the Cheeto, and then suddenly he just like somebody goes, "Oh, Kurt!" And then he just like throws all the Cheetos out in the crowd, and then it returns backstage. I'm holding this Cheeto, and I'm like,
He threw the Cheetos at the crowd?
yeah, like he had a bag of Cheetos that he was eating from.
He just threw it at the crowd?
yeah, he just threw Cheetos everywhere. I mean, this is like a mosh pit in Dayton,
yeah,
Ohio.
okay,
You know,
okay.
like side of the stage, like a rock club. You know, Hair Arena, I think it was.
There's a fucking video of Dana White getting in a mosh pit. Have you ever seen it?
No.
Yeah, he went to a Rage Against the Machine concert. The motherfucker got in a mosh pit. He got security guards looking out for him and
Wow.
shit. He jumped in a mosh pit.
So I took this Cheeto and I put it in
Yeah.
my pocket. I'm going to save this Cheeto, you know. And then I started, tripping really hard, and it was an amazing concert. On the way home, we're driving, and we go by, and like I'm driving, and this is a thunderstorm of rain. I'm still tripping.
you're tripping on acid.
And I'm tripping on acid.
This is a
And then-
responsible citizen.
No. and then this is even better. And I swear to God, you could ask her. I'm not going to say who she is on here, but we started fucking while I was driving in the rainstorm
Jesus
on acid for my first time.
You fucking baby.
And that's
killer.
where I think I died the first time. One of the first times I died.
It might be, man. Son.
We are broadcasting to iTunes.
Oh shit, iTunes.
We're recording to server.
Get the fuck out of here, server.